Good morning. Yesterday we discussed the quantity of matzah to be consumed on Pesach night, and we said that matzah should be Matsah Shemurah, guarded matzah. Today I want to try to understand what this Matsah Shemurah is, and what happens if a person doesn't have Matsah Shemurah. So the Torah tells us, we read this a few days ago on Shabbat, in Parashat Bo, Ushmartem et hamatzot, you must guard the matzot which are to be used for the first night of Pesach, and for the second night outside of Israel, need to be guarded specifically. What does this guarding mean? And there are two ways to understand this guarding. One way to understand it is that one needs to ensure that no chametz falls into it more than one would usually do with all other foods. As we explained last week when we talked about the hechsharim, that en machzikin anisura, we don't presume things go wrong. But when it comes to the matzot, one has to be extra vigilant and ensure that not a drop of chametz falls into it, more vigilance than he would normally be careful with other products. From when does this extra guarding need to take place? So with this there are three opinions. One opinion is that already from the time of harvesting, as soon as the grains are harvested, one has to ensure it doesn't come into contact with any water. Before it's been harvested, then it can't become chametz, because anything attached to the ground can't become chametz, even if water falls on it. But once it's been harvested, then if it gets mixed with water, it can start to become chametz. And already, according to this opinion, already from when it's been harvested, you need to ensure that it doesn't come to become chametz. The second opinion is that from the time of grinding, mishat techina. The third opinion, mishat lisha, from the time of kneading. Only from that point do you have to be extra vigilant. So the first opinion is the most stringent, and the final opinion from the time of kneading is the most lenient. The Shulchan Aruch rules that one should be following the most stringent opinion, that of the Rif, that already from the time of harvesting, one needs to ensure that there is this extra guarding. And that's what all the companies which make Matsah Shemurah, who brand on the Matsah Shemurah, that is going to be matzah which has been guarded already from the time of harvesting. However, the Shulchan Aruch does say that you can fulfill the mitzvah even if it's been guarded from the time of grinding. And all matzot which are kosher for Passover, even if they don't say Matsah Shemurah on them, are going to be guarded from the time of grinding. And I'll explain briefly why, and that's because grain today, standard wheat, the grains have been wet prior to the grinding. This is a process called letita, and the Shulchan Aruch rules that we no longer do letita today. We can't use matzot which have gone through the process of letita, and so therefore all matzot which are kasher lePesach, even if they're not Matsah Shemurah, they will have been processed with special grain, special flour, which has been guarded already from the time of techina, from the time of grinding. And so, if a person can't get the regular Shemurah Matsah, the round boxes of Shemurah Matsah, those round matzot, then he could fulfill this aspect of Matsah Shemurah from the time of grinding, although it's not in the first instance. In the first instance, one should be getting matzot which are have gone through extra guarding from the time of harvesting, but the regular box matzot will fulfill this aspect of shmirah from the time of grinding. However, there is another aspect of guarding the matzot. This is a whole different interpretation, nothing to do with ensuring that chametz doesn't fall into it, but rather when baking the matzot for the Pesach, for the Seder, one must ensure that it's done l'shem Mitsvah of Matsah, for the purpose of the mitzvah of eating matzah. So there's a special positive intention that needs to go with the baking of the matzot according to this understanding of what the Torah means when it says you must guard the matzot. And therefore, a child, for example, who we hold doesn't have the ability to have it intention, if he was to bake the matzot, then those matzot, even though they have no chametz in them, would be invalid for the mitzvah of matzah on Pesach night. Similarly, a non-Jew as well wouldn't be able to have intention for the purposes of matzah. And so the second aspect of matzot, which they call Matsah Shemurah today, is that they have been baked specifically l'shem Mitsvah of Matsah. Now, with machine-made matzot, which don't say Shemurah Matsah on them, I would assume that the machine's going to be operated by a Jew, and that would suffice for the purposes of l'shem Mitsvah of Matsah, for the purpose of Matzah. I'm still verifying that, but I think we can assume that, but I will update. And so therefore, in conclusion, certainly one should be ensuring that they have Matsah Shemurah for the matzah which they eat on Pesach night, the first night certainly, and outside of Israel, the second night as well. If, however, for whatever reason, a person is unable to get these matzot, then he could still fulfill the Mitsvah of Matsah Shemurah and make a bracha. Chacham Ovadia rules, make a bracha on regular matzah, which is kasher lePesach. He could still fulfill the mitzvah with that and make a bracha on it. Have a wonderful day.